Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Malden City Hall on this hot and humid day. I apologize for being late, but wanted to make sure I had an opportunity to go over the great work that you're about to see from this task force on public school cleaning. Before we get to that, just a couple of announcements. First, we want to let the community know that we continue to think about Mr. Famigletti and his family during this difficult time. Council Lucy, the rest of the committee have been in touch with the school community and offer any assistance that we can during this sad time. Also want to let you know that McDonald's Stadium renovations continue to move forward. They are about to break ground if they haven't already, and again the plan is that synthetic turf field, new track, new scoreboard will be in place by mid-August of this year. Want to congratulate the Malden East Boston Mites for winning the championship over at Valley Forum a couple of weeks ago. They had an undefeated season, undefeated through the playoffs, and won the final game. So congratulations to Coach Curtis and the rest of the team. Bike to the Sea continues to be ahead of schedule. If you haven't already noticed, the tracks have come out on Ferry Street near the high school. And so we're excited as that project continues to move forward. We also want to congratulate Malden's newest business, Phys Ed. Phys Ed's was just opened last Thursday. Grand opening was Friday. And we also want to congratulate the Patio on Broadway, which had their grand opening on Saturday night. And then we also want to say thank you to Hugh O'Neill's, who celebrated 10 years here in the city of Malden last week. With that being said, just a couple of short announcements regarding upcoming events. Friday, April 27th will be the next online forum in conjunction with the Malden Patch. New to this forum will be the addition of Dr. David DeRusi. As I'm being told, some of the viewers are getting tired of me, so we're going to bring in Dr. DeRusi to liven up the discussion. That'll take place Friday, April 27th at 10 a.m. And then the next Public Safety Awareness Forum will take place on Monday, April 30th at 6 p.m. at the Emerson School on Highland Avenue. We'll end by saying that I visited the Malden Mini Mart again this morning, and things are progressing there nicely for the owner. You wouldn't recognize the store if you went in today, and we're not done yet. We have a meeting of all the store owners that will take place here at City Hall on May 2nd. That date was just confirmed this morning by Kevin Duffy. So with that being said, we're here today to discuss the task force report on public school cleaning. As many of you know, this was an issue that we heard about during the 12 months that we spent on the campaign trail. And actually it was something that I've heard about for the past 8 years as a city councilor. So once again, like before, wanted to make sure we engage the residents and our city council and business leaders to get involved and determine what is going on today with respect to maintaining our schools and what should we be doing moving forward. This is particularly important as we just accepted the renovation of Malden High School, which came in at just about $77 million. So this is the perfect time to ask ourselves, you know, what is the best way to maintain that school, because chances are we will never get the reimbursement that we did to do the high school again like we did. So with that being said, I have my colleague, my friend, and someone who I trust in the city of Malden that fortunately for me and in our office headlined this task force. So I want to bring him up, let him talk to you a little about went into the report, introduce the members of the task force, and then we'll take any questions that you have. So with that being said, let me turn it over to Councilor Greg Lucy.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome everybody. Little over 2 months ago, I stood before you when the mayor assigned a task force to look at school cleanliness and maintenance. First thing I'd like to do is introduce the task force. It's school committee person Adam Weldi, Teddy Louis Jacques, customer service, Brooklyn Mayor's office, Peg Crow City Councilor, and also who couldn't be here is Ron Hogan, a Malden business owner that was very helpful in writing this report. Just so I can be upfront with everybody, most times in government when you form task force, the idea is probably to save money cut down on your budget a little bit. This wasn't what this task force was about. It was about getting the best possible way to clean our schools. Like the mayor said, with the completion of the high school, the $77 million renovation, all 7 schools that we have now are either 5 fairly new built ones. I guess first one was come online in 1999, so schools get old quick, so they're probably not that old and not that young inside. But in the ELC, the Early Learning Center was renovated, and just finally completed was the $77 million renovation. This isn't a new thing in the community. I've been hearing it for 10 years since I've been in office, that maybe some of the schools aren't as clean as they should be. So what the task force did, it went out and just a quick, this will be online too as soon as we end this press conference, so you'll be able to see it. If you look at who we interviewed all 8 principals, assistant principal. We sent a survey out to the custodians. We have a teacher survey in there, a parent survey, human resource director, the prior Mayor Howard's assistant that negotiated the contracts with the custodians, the Board of Health, and there's many others. I actually went to a couple of districts in the community. I went to Malden Catholic, did a tour of that building, talked to the custodians. One of the first things I did was I went down Chevers. Although it's a small school, it's a school that's over 100 years old, and just to see how they clean that building. May not be the size of the schools we have, but there's over 300 kids. There's a gymnasium, there's cafeterias just like we have. There's many bathrooms like we have in our schools. So although smaller, it's just interesting to see how the districts do it. You'll find in this report, it's completed. One thing we have 2 options that we'd like to see, the possibilities. One option would be to completely outsource the whole entire school system, or option 2 would be, and this would be at a minimum, would outsource the Malden High School. One of the things we did was we brought in a cleaning company to walk around the high school, give us an estimate of what it would cost. So we have an idea what the cost would be, and it came at a favorable number. So we think we can do at a minimum, do the high school. Reassign some custodians out of the high school to other schools that are down a person or 2, and we can move forward with that model. Of course, that model is contingent on negotiations. There's a lot of things that are in the custodial contract at this point that it's very difficult to overcome. Specifically, the amount of time allowed off, which it's a huge barrier to overcome, but it's in the existing contract. So that's the sort of thing we need discussion on with once the city and the school department sits down with the custodial union, because the one other thing we're recommending is that the custodians go from the city side back to the school side. Just feel that's a better way to be able to manage everything. Each principal would control their building, and the other part that's missing in this whole piece, which we found as we went around, the idea of lists of cleaning lists, tasks. What's cleaned every day, what's cleaned weekly, what's cleaned monthly. It seems like that type of thing doesn't exist at this point. So that's something we're gonna work with Superintendent Teruzzi on, to make sure that those tasks are definitely put out there and measured, and someone supervising, making sure that the tasks are completed. Again, we have 7 great buildings in this system. Schools get old real quick if you don't keep up with them. So we need some checks and balances in place so that we're able to keep the schools updated and clean schools and healthy schools. That's what we're looking to do. That's what this task force is all about. So with that, I will take any questions, or questions for the mayor, or questions from my task force. Okay, the question from Matt Byrne is this a negotiating or bargaining position? We know we're going to go to the table with the custodial union. We're hoping to bring them all on board. We're hoping we can make some changes to the existing contract that makes it sense to the city to keep these upkeep of the buildings. If it's not being unfair to everybody's going to keep their job. If one of the options taken, the only thing one of the things we will be doing is putting things in place that make sure these schools stay clean and they're upkept.
And if I could just add, I really want to give a lot of credit to Council Lucy and the rest of the team, because he is correct in that one of the options calls for the current structure to be restructured. It would have been very easy just to come in and sort of start over, but I think the council and the rest of the team really tried to work with what we have today to give it, another chance. So, sure. There isn't. I mean, when you have a chance to read the report, nowhere is that called for. As a matter of fact, under option 2, not a single job is called for to be laid off. So I think what this team has done is really try and restructure the system to make it better moving forward. Now, if that weren't to work, the other thing I do like with what's being proposed today is that we do this all on a trial basis, because the one thing that I think the counselor and the team doesn't want to do again is, we implement some facet of the report and then we're back here again in 10, 20 years doing the same thing. So I think the plan would be, we implement something from this report and then reevaluate a year from now to determine whether or not we're on the right track. And if we are, then maybe we look at doing something a little bit more of a longer, on a longer term basis.
If I could just follow up that a little bit with you, Matt, is that, one thing we're going to keep in place also is the idea of a senior custodian, so that, if we're going to sit down with these folks and just say, look, here's what our expectations are going forward. I think they're very reasonable expectations. I'm sure they're going to see them as reasonable, and we're going to keep the senior custodians in place. And then also put an evaluation and process in place, which is, although it's in the contract, it's really non-existent at this point. Our proposal is to have at least one supervisor that's currently in the budget as is. The person left a supervisor of custodians, it's in the budget now. No, Steve Melanson's office was supervising, but he's all over the city with all the different buildings. This is a specific individual who would do the evaluation process with the principals. To have you need an evaluation process in place to make a system work. This would put that back in play.
And if I could just add, the council's right. I mean, this is sort of going to that site-based management model that we heard so much about in the early 2000s. Somehow or another, we got away from that with respect to this topic. I think what the team's trying to do here is get back to that, because ultimately anytime you can reduce something down to an individual school, I think that the school will be better off for it. So I think that's really one of the themes that I've seen from the report in front of me. The other thing is, when it comes to the bargaining position, I think if you know me by now, Matt, strategy and positioning myself has never been my modus operandi. I go right from the heart. And this is an issue that's plagued the city now for, at least 8 years when I was on the city council, and now my first 4 months as mayor. So we're just trying to figure out what the best way forward is. We must do that. If you look at the teacher survey, it's very telling. 392 teachers were surveyed. 72% rank the cleanliness of the schools either fair or poor. 87% have said there's no change in the past few years. It's either the same or the worse. And then final statistic that jumped out at me is, problems being fixed timely. 59% of them said that is not the case. So, this isn't a question of positioning and strategizing. It's a question of us working together to try and come up with the best solution to address what I consider to be one of the major problems for us here in the city.
The other thing with that, Matt, too, is that there's certain aspects of what the teachers need to do in their classrooms as well. One of the things we're suggesting is no more food outside the cafeteria. Microwaves, refrigerators, all those things that end up in classrooms that aren't supposed to be there. We're recommending they get taken out. Plants on the vents that cover up the vents so clean air doesn't get to flow in the the room, that sort of thing. So teachers are going to have a responsibility too. This whole process is about a matter of everybody coming together. We have the superintendent standing over here. He was the first one I reached out to over 2 months ago. Very enthusiastic under one condition, he'll take them, but not with the same system that's in place. And so we went from there, and we actually did our homework and just exactly how the system works, for lack thereof. So at this point, we're saying give the custodians back to the schools, but give it to them in a good system that's in place so it will work. And part of that, what's going to work is you're going to try to bring everyone together, sit down, and let's just, I said in my last press conference, there's 6,600 kids, 750 staff that are in our buildings every day. They deserve clean and healthy schools. The way the schools are done now, it's just not happening in most of the schools. And I really need to clarify that. We're talking as a system-wide situation. There's 7 different buildings. Each building is different in how they clean and how they do things. There's certainly some that are better than others. Those ones that felt a little put out that we're doing this, I explained to them that if everything was clean like a certain number of schools, we may not even have in the press conference. But there's just some schools that need some help with this.
Other questions? Other questions?
What we're proposing is,
That's the question.
Kevin Macchiola from the Malden News. We have some audio problems, so I'm going to try to go back at the question best I can. He asked about the current staffing at Malden High School. Okay, city custodians in the building and during hours, and about the shift of money, and if it would be level funded. Okay, thanks, Kevin. The plan as we have right now is there would be 2 custodians that would stay on at the high school. How the cleaning company works is they come in from 8 hours at night, from 3 to 11. They bring in 8 people, 5 nights a week, and 8 people clean. If there's someone else sick, doesn't matter. You're still going to get 8 every time. The 2 custodians during the day, they would have specific obligations, and we would have things for them to do as well. From what I gather on my rounds is a lot of times the day custodian, because it's tough to clean inside the building, they can always go outside the grounds and make sure that's tidy. The high school's tough on that Eastern Ave corridor because everything blows there, but how they do it now is the custodian will go out there, and Principal Brown has kids going out there as well. The part about the money at this point, there is in option 2, which each option is take away you want. There's no first place or second place one, but on the sheet that when you read it, option 2 would be that all 30 custodians would have again, as long as negotiations turn out so we can agree to things, all 6 would be placed in other schools, so no one would lose their job. So we would be level funded. You get right now there's a couple schools that are down some custodians, the Salemwood in particular. And what we would want to do is put them up to, pretty much the level that we think is adequate to clean the school.
Yeah, let me just add, if I could, Kevin, because believe me, the school committee has already made it clear that if we are going to shift the custodians over to the school side, the director, must also shift. And as you know, we created under the former administration sort of a supervisor, if you will, of the custodians, but it wasn't solely dedicated to the school system like this plan suggests. So, let it be known that Dr. DeRusi made that clear as well, that, if we're going to do this, we do it right. We don't have someone that is, doing, 30% or, 2/3 of the time on the city side and then doing 25% or whatever it is on the school side. So there is a position that exists within the city budget that has been left vacant because of a retirement, and as we go through the budget process, that would be the position we would hone in on to create this, sort of director of school custodians, if that option was chosen, and if our talks with the custodial union goes well.
And also that position would be, hopefully we're hoping that it's not hoping, we're insisting on it's someone that has done this before. not just hire off the street, someone that has experience with school buildings and cleanliness and maintenance in those buildings.
Other questions? Anybody else that hasn't asked a question yet? If not, we're going to go back to Matt. Once, twice. Okay, Matt, you're on. Already has. The question was, when does the custodial contract end? I think according to the report, it has ended, I think.
June 30th is when
June 30th. June 30th, the memorandum of understanding will expire, which is what they had been using for the previous couple of years during the fiscal crisis, were MOUs. So that one expires on June 30th. So I think the game plan next would be, to reach out and start the discussion about what's contained within this proposal and how to move forward. Sure.
That's a good question. I don't have the exact percentage. We have in the report that the average sick day is 10. I think if you went, and I do have that data, because one thing I did request, or one of the many things I requested was, payroll information, the sick time used, and how many sick days are left after how many years you're in the system. I don't have the exact percentage, but a good, I'd be throwing this number out at 31. I would say 10 to 12 take all 18. And that definitely creates a problem, because if you're taking, you're allowed 22 vacation days, throw in 18 sick days, 1 personal day, some holiday time. It's a lot of paid days off. So one of the, when we looked at this report, we were trying to say, okay, what would constitute a good number for the schools to work? And what should the staffing levels to be, instead of people always telling us what is needed. It was always very difficult, because very, very seldom do they have a full staff.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is in the report too, Matt, you'll see there's even suggestions about maybe looking at changing up the shifts. Should we stick with 3? Should we go to 2? There's a lot of that creativity that I was hoping I would see in the report, and again, that's a credit to the chairperson and the committee. Any other questions? If not, this is on our website now. We also have members of the team that will be here to answer any questions that you have, and we also have Dr. David DeRusi here as well. So with that being said, we'll keep you posted moving forward. This will be fast-paced, because it is budget time. The contract has expired, or is going to expire with the custodian, so we want to get together quickly and see if we can, I think the council have said it best, work together to produce the schools that the students, the staff, and the teachers all deserve. So with that being said, thank you all for being here today, and we look forward to talking with you afterward.